Okay. I'm nervous. Sorry.
It's okay. You don't have to be nervous at all. Not that that helps
Well,
people to be less nervous, but
I know.
um,
It's just the way I am.
okay. So, what's the physical sensation of nervousness?
Um, just a little shaky.
Okay. And what's the physical sensation of anger?
Hmm. Um, I'm not feeling it right now, so
Right.
it's hard to remember.
Okay.
Um, I would say it's maybe, well, probably a combination of things. Numbing and all encompassing. I don't know.
How many total different emotions do you think you feel in the course of one average day?
A lot.
More than three?
Well,
Like different emotions. So, for example, what's an emotion that's not angry, sad, or happy?
well, there's different levels of them. I mean, love could be considered happy, right? So,
Do you think love is an emotion?
yeah.
Okay. Um, can you tell me about what you about the small events that comprise your day yesterday that aren't of any particular significance? Like, well, I got up, I fed the dog, I went to the farmer's market to get some celery, I came back, like that kind of story.
Oh, well, yesterday was a bad day. I wasn't feeling too well, so I pretty much laid in bed all day.
How about today before now?
Um, right. So I woke up early. I try to wake up at 5 every day, and I made two poached eggs and a triple matcha latte, and I went hiking.
So why do you like to wake up at 5 every day?
I like to be outside at that hour. I like to be outside um, around sunrise or before sunrise. And I like to be outside after.
Do you take pictures around sunrise? Good lighting.
Occasionally.
If you caught yourself at any given moment doing some sort of creative endeavor, would it be more likely to be writing something, drawing something, making a video, playing music, acting out a play, or something else?
Um, I write. I like to sit in nature and I like to sketch or write the about my surroundings.
So you like to write like descriptions of your surroundings?
Um, no, they're more expressive, sort of, I would say more on the side of poetic versus just a description.
If you were going to write a short story, would you be more likely to write it in first person or third person?
First.
Okay. Um, if you were to write a novel, do you think you'd have more difficulty developing distinct and believable characters, or developing a interesting and fast moving plot?
The plot.
Okay. Um, what sort of thing makes you angry at yourself? Let me ask you open-ended first, and then I'll give you a couple choices.
Wow, that's an interesting question. I feel angry a lot at other people, but I don't know if I feel angry at myself. I feel other things, but not.
Okay, well let me explain. Give you an example. So what makes me feel disappointed in myself is when I make an artistic mistake, don't notice it until after I publish or something. What makes me angry with myself is like putting a drink down next to my foot and then kicking it over. Like, what? God damn it, Eric! Why did you put it next to your foot? You know better than that.
Oh, okay. Um, I guess I don't consider that anger, but
Okay, well, I mean, whether you do it out loud in your head or in some other sense, some points in life we say to ourselves, we try to sort of kick ourselves in the ass, and sometimes in life we sort of try to pat ourselves on the back. Um, and they tend to be about specific kinds of things.
I
So,
mean, if I'm running late, then I will, or if I get lost, I I tend to panic if I get lost driving,
okay,
if I'm running late.
do you get lost often?
Yes.
Okay, do you ask your phone how to get where you're going,
Yeah.
and you still get lost?
Um, not if I'm using my phone, no.
Okay. So the thing is, I frequently I go back and forth whether I use my phone or not. Like if I know where I'm going, but it's fairly far away, sometimes I'll remember to ask my phone the best way to get there. Sometimes I won't, and I'll end up going a dumb way. Anyway, irrelevant. Okay. Can you tell? Let's say you've just thawed out a caveman. You dug him up from your backyard. He was encased in a block of ice. You've thawed him out, and you quickly taught him to read and write English. But he's, other than that, unfamiliar with the modern world. Now you got to go off to work, and you need to leave him a note that explains to him how to cook a microwave pizza in the microwave in 6 steps. Please write your note for the caveman, starting
I
with
probably
step one.
I probably draw pictures. um,
Okay, what would you draw pictures of then?
um, like of the microwave and of his fingers and
In the
pushing
freezer
the
and the pizza.
pushing the buttons.
Well, what if he
Right.
ends up putting his fingers in the freezer and the microwave and the pizza on top of the microwave?
Well, he might. I mean, he might not. I, I
Okay.
don't know. I
Well,
mean,
okay, then let's change this
I'm
top.
I'm
Let's change the
assuming he
question.
can't read,
Can you
so
break down for just yourself or for any normal person the thing raking up leaves and throwing them away into 6 steps?
um into 6 steps. Does it have to be 6 steps?
Yes.
One, get out the rake. Two, get a large bag. Three, um, begin dragging the rake towards you to gather leaves.
Okay.
Four, um, pick up the leaves. Five, put them in the bag, and six, tie the bag.
Okay. Now, if you had to eliminate one of those steps, which one would you eliminate and why?
Um, I forgot what I said now.
Here's what you said. I'll tell you. You say, bring the rake, get a large bag, start raking the leaves together into a pile, pick up the leaves, put them in the bag,
Oh, tie
and
the
tie the
bag.
bag.
I would eliminate tie the bag.
Why?
Because it's not necessary.
So you'd rather have you'd end up with an untied bag of leaves, though.
Well, because with the object is to rake the leaves and put the leaves in the bag. So,
Right, but wouldn't you be better off getting rid of pick up the leaves? Because you've already told them they have to put them in the bag. They can't really put them in the bag without picking them up.
okay.
Okay. Um, have you ever heard me ask the chicken or rooster question?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. So you mean you don't know if you've heard it, or you don't know the answer, or what?
Is that how why did the chicken cross the road kind
No, no,
of?
no. It's actually based on a true story. In England, there was this farmer who had a flock of hens. Okay,
Yeah.
one of the hens had something happen to her such that her ovary was damaged, and what happened then is she grew feathers like a rooster. She started cock-a-doodle doing like a rooster, and she started protecting the other hens like a rooster. She'd even like pick out treats for her favorite hens, and all the hens would treat this chicken like a rooster. And even if a hawk came overhead, this chicken would stand up and go caw caw caw, and like try to scare away the hawk like a rooster does. So the question is this thing a chicken or a rooster, or a hen or a rooster?
What did you say happened to the ovary?
It got
It
damaged in some way.
damaged. Well, if it had ovaries, then I'd say a hen.
Okay. Um, can you tell? I have a new invention I just created, and I want you to help me come up with some snappy names for it. Okay.
All right.
My new invention is a a garden hose that has a um, flare launcher attached to it. So while you're watering the lawn, if you have an emergency, you can shoot off an emergency flare into the sky. And the only thing I can think to name my new invention is garden hose with flare launcher attached to it. But the marketing department says that'll never sell. So, can you help me come up with some snappy names to sell my new product?
Um, hmm, I don't know. I'm thinking along the lines of fire or something, fire hose, fire shot. I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm. Water shooting, fire shooting, hose and water shooting, water fire? That's
Yeah,
pretty
we'll
good.
go
That's a
with
pretty
that.
good name.
Oh, you came up with the
Have you
name.
ever played slip and slide before?
No.
Imagine if they named slip and slide unfurled piece of plastic to wetten on your lawn. No one would ever buy it. That's why you got to have a snappy name.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, can you tell me? You talked about feeling angry at others sometimes. People behave in various ways that make us angry, but sometimes at the same quantity of wrongdoing, different styles of wrongdoing will make us more angry than others. So, for example, if somebody told you they were going to pick up milk and drop it off at your house on their way home or something, and then failed to do so, forgot, or didn't follow through, would that make you more mad? Or somebody told you, oh, I won't eat those cupcakes. I know you're saving them for this party. But then they are like, oh, I really wanted one. I ate one. I'm sorry. Which will make you more mad?
If they eat cupcakes.
Okay. Do you have any reasoning why, or is it just that's what your gut says?
Because they knew it was for a party.
Okay. What if you had told them you needed the milk to make the cupcakes for the party?
Um, no, because that's more forgetfulness. It's not
Okay.
just a lack of conscientiousness or something.
Okay. Um, what would make you more angry at another person if you took them to a party and they acted really uh, like awkward in some way that embarrassed you, made you feel embarrassed to have brought them, or you bring someone to a party and they hurt somebody else's feelings?
If they hurt somebody else's feelings.
Okay. How
I
about
can get embarrassed though. but but if they hurt somebody else, yeah.
how
That's
about if they do something they said they wouldn't, like eating the cupcakes, or if they hurt someone else's feelings?
definitely if they hurt somebody else's feelings.
Okay. Um, do you think the truth is used more often uh, for good or evil? And what I mean by the truth is some sort of singular statements that express things clearly, but maybe not completely. So you might think of an example of somebody using the truth to do good as somebody getting an innocent man out of prison. You might think of somebody using the truth to do bad as a politician exploiting fear in order to push through some some very like offensive legislation or something. You know.
Well, how do you use truth to get an innocent person out of prison?
Well, the truth is they didn't do it. If you have, say, DNA evidence now that they didn't used to be able to test, but now they can, and the DNA evidence is exculpatory, then the truth of the matter is that wasn't his DNA at the scene, and he's not the person guilty of it.
I see. Um, hmm. That's a tough one. I go back and forth on something like that. I That's tough for me. I would probably, I don't know. I don't think too highly of this world, so maybe evil.
Okay, so describe to me some some of what's wrong with the world.
um, um, I don't think people are often honest with themselves. I
Okay.
don't think that they're open and
So how did dishonesty with oneself? Can you put that into an example of some sort? Like, it's we have a clear understanding of when someone's being willfully dishonest to somebody else, namely they're knowingly lying or misrepresenting something. But when they're lying to yourself, how can we tell we're lying to ourselves versus being honest with ourselves?
I don't think that people often know. I don't think it's intentional that they're lying to themselves. It's just that uh, they're more prone to being possibly defensive or something more directed at another person, um, when I think that like they didn't take a closer look at what initiated whatever it was that they were um, saying or responding about. I, Gosh,
Yeah, you think,
I probably didn't make very much sense. But
well, just to be, just see if,
I
let me
think
see if
that
I can
there's
clarify it.
always an underlying reason, and I think that people are quick to point the finger at somebody else instead of taking a look at what generated the scenario to begin with.
Okay, so you think accountability avoidance is one of the problems with the world?
That sounds like a good term.
Okay. Um, but you also mentioned the sort of rush to judgment. So do you feel as though if the world were
I don't think it's entirely accounted. Well, I don't want to sound like I'm all about saying, oh, everybody is just at fault. I'm saying that, and I don't mean it always in a negative way. I just think that, myself and everybody just aren't that self-aware at all times, is all. And to me, that's, because of the reactions and things that come about from that, I often see, what seems like avoidance to me. Like I detect sometimes that there's something more below that.
so what do you think people are avoiding?
Again, I don't think it's an outright intentional thing, but it could be anything and everything. It could be something deep seated that they're not, fully aware themselves. It could be just something simple as just not being confrontational. I mean,
So how does how does it display such that we recognize it as a problem the world suffers from? In other words, not every individual suffers from this particular shortcoming, right? So what I'm asking is, since like, how do you determine who's displaying this quality?
um, off the top of my head, I would say by whether or not they're being open to discussion about what is occurring, instead of being quick to, write somebody off or,
Okay.
make any kind of,
So you would say then
judgment
that
that doesn't go anywhere.
you would say then that the problem when things go south, it's usually because shit got pushed through too fast rather than because we hesitated too long and missed the opportunity. Shit got pushed through without adequate deliberation rather than we deliberated too long and missed the boat, which is a more common problem.
I would say.
Yeah, okay. Um, Do you perceive the people in your life as in circles, like inner circle, second circle, outer circle, or in ordinals, like most close, second most close, third most close, fourth most close, or something else?
I guess like more close.
Okay. Let's say you had a choice of temp jobs for one day. Temp job one is you get to answer the phone and deal with the customers who have complaints. Temp job two is you go around the office building and fix every loose toilet handle and door knob and this thing needs to be ratcheted down, that kind of stuff. Which job do you want for the day?
If that's assuming that I that I can fix all those things, like
Well,
I'm not very skilled in that area,
you're
but
provided the tools. Do you have the know-how? I don't know. It's not necessarily challenging stuff. It's like,
but I'm saying if this scenario is if I had the know-how, I'd probably pick fixing
well,
things.
you're not quite sure going in whether you're going to know how to fix everything on the physical end or whether you're going to be able to fix all these people's problems on the phone end.
Well, if that's the case, then probably the customer complaint.
And what's your reasoning behind that?
I'm just usually pretty good at immediately picking up on their tone and sort of going along with that and making them feel like they're heard. So,
I see. And do you think most of the time when people are angry, it's because they don't feel as though they're being heard?
what I notice is that if they feel like they're heard, that goes a long way in terms of, making things right.
That's a beautiful debater answer. That's because it's like you're making you're making a precise distinction there in answering the question. Um, okay, so how important is it? How significant a part of authenticity is creativity?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, authenticity doesn't have to be creative, but I think it is sort of a look a look into who somebody is.
Okay, can you tell,
A little bit.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a story
Oh
about
no.
a boy who's very sad because his older sister is moving off to boarding school, but she leaves him a gift behind. It's a bag of flour, and she says, "Whenever you get lonely, just hug this bag of flour." Okay, now you tell me the rest of the story. How does this all resolve? Why a bag of flour?
Um, maybe hmm. He has to hug it. I don't know. Hmm. Maybe she feels some sort of resentment for being sent to boarding school.
That's why she gave him a
Um,
bag of flour.
Possibly.
But it's
Um,
her brother, not her parents, that she gives the bag of flour to.
well, maybe she doesn't feel like she has equal treatment.
Oh, you mean she's resentful she's resentful towards her brother,
Yeah.
even though her brother's very sad that she's going off to boarding school.
Boy, I probably sound like I have a real low opinion of everybody.
It sounds like you're projecting your own sibling relationship onto this story, is what it sounds like.
Um,
I don't know if you have a sibling or not, but you know, that's the conclusion I immediately drew. It's like, oh, you must have a shitty relationship with your brother.
no, I don't have a brother, but I have a shitty relationship with my half sister. Um,
Okay, fine. So that's interesting. So what do you think what sort of conclusions do you think I've drawn so far in talking to you?
I have no idea because I'm so nervous and I don't feel like we've talked in depth. But what I've noticed about your videos, which obviously I'm so amused and I think they're pretty realistic compared to what you see mostly on YouTube. Um, I noticed you pick up on things like amazingly quick. So you probably have something in mind, but I don't know. I really I really don't know. I mean,
Okay,
I've sent you something about myself. I've told you when I take those tests online, I'm either it comes up as INFP or INFJ, and I don't really think I'm either one. I feel like I don't fit 100% what they describe. So I don't
okay. Well,
have a
I've got you
definitive.
narrowed down to two possible types, and it's neither of them. Okay,
What?
you're definitely not an INFJ. There's no chance of that
Okay.
because even I, and I am not particularly good at identifying FI, can tell that you are FI. Everything you've said thus far links back to introverted feeling or introverted sensing.
FI.
So some of it you could say introverted sensing, but most of it's FI. So the thing is, what I mean by that is the fixation on authenticity and openness, meaning vulnerability essentially, is a is an FI concern. And invulnerability, protecting yourself by positioning yourself as this or that or posturing, that is FE defense, to keep your feelings safe by not being real, right? So most of what I've heard from you so far seems to suggest that you have FI as an absolute value. So that could be first, it could be third, it could be fifth. It's not likely to be seventh. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is try to figure out whether
So do you have a type in mind?
I have two possible types in mind, but I some more questions. Is, well, I feel
You're,
quite confident about FI being in the front side. I I need to nail down particularly the NISI half of things. So the next bunch of questions are going to try to be determining whether you're NI on the front stack or SI. Can you tell me of an instance when you've been out to eat or something like that recently, like some sort of place out in the world, and something insignificant happened that there's no reason to remember, but you remember it anyway? For example, well, I went to dinner the other day with Judy, and there was a lady who was sitting across from us, and she dropped her fork and had to ask the waitress for a new one.
do I remember eating in a restaurant and there being something insignificant happening?
What I'd like you to do is to tell me a story that's equivalent to the one I just said. In other words, you're relating a specific, insignificant detail that while you can't articulate any reason why you ought to have remembered it, you remember it anyway.
Okay, the last time I went out to eat at a restaurant, it was late and they were vacuuming around us while we were eating.
Okay, cool.
Which
Um,
I didn't like, but I knew it was late, so
Okay. Um, if you have, let's say it's a given day, you wake up first thing in the morning, and you know you have an appointment at 3 p.m., from 3 to 4 p.m., and you don't really have anything before that, okay? But you wake up early, 5 a.m., and you go do your things, you come back, and then are you aware of that thing coming up? Are you during the time from when you wake up to it occurring? Are you saying to yourself periodically, "Don't forget, I got that thing at 3," or are you delegating that to a calendar, or are you just forgetting about it till 3:15 and going, "Oh shit"?
No, I'm thinking about it the whole time.
Okay. Um. So I'm gonna ask you some TI questions now, which are basically deductive reasoning questions. Um. If some potatoes look like Abraham Lincoln, and some things that look like Abraham Lincoln are Abraham Lincoln, is it necessarily the case that some potatoes are Abraham Lincoln?
Wait, potato.
If some potatoes look
Yeah,
like
some.
Abraham Lincoln, okay,
Yep.
and some things that look like Abraham Lincoln are Abraham Lincoln, can we logically conclude that some potatoes are Abraham Lincoln?
No.
Correct.
Some.
If, if we could, then in fact, basically, in any instance where anything might look like Abraham Lincoln, some instances of that which do look like Abraham Lincoln would be Abraham Lincoln. Anyway, okay, let's ask another one. Can you tell me who my mother's sister's husband's son is in relation to me? My mother's sister's husband's son?
Um. So that would. Uh. I don't know how the family thing works. I mean, so that's the aunt's husband's son. That would. I don't know. That's like. I don't know.
It's your cuz. It's your cousin. Your your mom's sister's husband is your uncle. His kid is your cousin.
But if it's by married,
Okay, all the people in these
no
stories,
cousin.
all these people in these
Okay.
stories have one marriage, and all their
All right.
children are of their partner. Okay. Let me ask you another one. Can you tell me who my mother's father's wife is in relation to me?
Your your great grandmother.
Nope. Just my grandma.
Your grandmother. Sorry.
Just my regular grandmother. Just my good grandmother. Okay. How about this? If only people from Iceland can wear hats, and I can wear a hat, is it necessarily the case that I'm from Iceland?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Um, Now, let's see. I feel pretty clear on that and that and that. And okay, so talk to me about what kind of problems are you good at fixing? If you thought of these following categories of problems that you could be good at fixing: artistic problems, like being a good editor or something like that. Social problems, like being a good therapist. Mechanical problems, like being a good handyman. Systemic, structural problems, like being a good CEO slash director of something that has to construct program architecture. Which do you think?
Hmm. I'm not really in any of those positions, so I mean, I am an artistic person, and I'm not social, but I feel like I feel like I, I'm always hyper aware of people, so that to
Oh,
me might fall into social. Um,
okay. Do you feel as though you can schmooze well?
what's the definition of schmooze again?
Schmooze? Like, glad hand network. Um, oh, hey, how's it?
You're cutting out. You're all cutting out on me.
Ready?
So hey, you cut out on me.
Well, I mean, I'm not cutting out. It's not my data connection.
Oh, well, I'm cutting
All
out.
right. So, what I mean by schmooze is I walk into the party with my wife and I say, Jordan, hey, good to see you. How's the wife and kids? Julie, it's been such a long time. What's going on with you? You look fantastic. That's schmoozing.
I I think I have the capacity to do that, but I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I'm very friendly and open towards people when when I meet them in a way that I don't feel is returned to me, but I'm not like I don't like to take it as far as what you just did. I don't, I'm more
Okay.
reserved about it.
All right. Let me.
Oh,
Um. Wow, that's a really cool shirt you got there. Honestly, and then sarcastically.
say that again?
Wow, that's a really cool shirt you have on. Can you say it first honestly, like you're giving an honest compliment, and then second sarcastically, like you don't mean it for real?
Can I say it sarcastically?
Yes, can you please demonstrate? First, saying the
Oh,
sentence
I'll just
normally.
actually say it.
Yeah, so first demonstrate saying the sentence as though it's an honest compliment, and then demonstrate as though you're being sarcastic.
Okay. Wow, that's a really cool shirt you have there. That's a really cool shirt you got there.
Okay.
What?
Interesting. It's an interesting test. You know, I used to say what I've been trying to figure out good tests for the functions for a long time, and I think I have a number of very strong tests for extroverted intuition, and I think I have a number of very strong tests for introverted sensing, introverted intuition, and I got an excellent test for introverted thinking. Um, and I thought for a while that a good test for extroverted feeling might be to check if people could read other people's facial expressions, like like what emotion am I displaying? If like somehow an FE polar person would be like happy, but no, that doesn't work at all. You can't check to see a FE polar because FE polar people are just as able as anybody else to read other people's emotions and facial expressions. In fact, they're more able than say FI polar in some kinds of instances to read other people. However, if you want a good FE polar test, if you ask an FE polar person to say one sentence normally and another way sarcastically, they'll give you essentially the exact same affect in both instances. You changed yours a little bit. I wouldn't call that sarcastic what you were doing, but it was a little bit changed. So it would seem that that's a pretty good FE polar test, and it's consistent with where I've been thinking for quite some time, and everything's been consistent with thus far. You are an ISTJ, like my French Cameron.
What? I don't think that's possible.
It is. You've got either fourth or seventh slot extroverted intuition, which means when I try to press on your attentional manner to generate random ideas, you no. I'm not gonna. I don't really have anything else to say about that or whatever. In other words, if I press on you for spontaneous originality, that's a pushback spot. Probably fourth there for rather than seventh, which is blind and doesn't even realize what's happening a lot of times. And additionally, you've got backside but not polar TI, so that makes it 6, 5, or 8. You've got you're definitely SI over NI. That's why you've been thinking about it all day and you keep reminding yourself and stuff like that. That's a totally SI move. And you're FE polar. Everything checks out. You're ISTJ.
ISTJ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't believe it, but I have to think. I'm gonna mull that one over.
Well, sure. I don't. I respect that everybody needs to come to, like, sort of has their own relationship with their type, and one of the things that determines a person's relationship with their own type is where their introverted intuition is. If introverted intuition is in an odd numbered slot, then the person is probably going to not settle until they find the right type, and then once they find the right type, they're going to be perfectly satisfied and settle on it because they've been waiting to find the truth. If you have extra introverted intuition in an odd numbered slot, you tend to think of truth as instrumental for some other purpose. So, as a consequence, people with introverted intuition and even numbered slots tend to have a little bit more of a roller coaster relationship with what type they are, even after it's been typed pretty definitively. The thing is, I don't want to ever make anybody feel like they don't own their own ontology or anything. So I tell you you're an ISTJ, you can obviously believe whatever you want to believe. But I will tell you this. I've done a lot of these type tests. I've tested the same skills in the same context with a shit ton of different people. So I know exactly where your results land against all these other people. And you're an ISTJ.
Wow, that's just shocking. I mean, but boy, I think I'm gonna have to go and read all the descriptions now for it and everything. But I just didn't expect you to say that.
What did you think I was going to say?
That was an INFP.
You're not an INFP. INFPs have a lot more extroverted intuition.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah.
But
And you have a lot more extroverted sensing. So this get up at 5 in the morning and go hiking shit, that's textbook ISTJ stuff. Cameron, he does lots of go by himself on hikes, bikes. He sometimes show me, I filmed these bears today on my hike.
well, I do force myself to do that. It's not like I
How
wake up and go, boom,
how long
I'm
have you
at
been
it. And
forcing
I
yourself?
lay some years now.
Okay.
What?
See, normally when you
But
talk about
it
forcing
takes
yourself,
me.
you're talking about an unusual application of self will. You've been doing the same thing for years now. How is that forcing yourself? You're just doing the same thing again and again and again. You're habituated to it. It's comfortable. It's familiar, and you do it every day. How is that forcing yourself?
Because I have a tendency to not want to get out of bed.
Because it's comfy,
So
huh? It's comfy in bed.
no, I'm in my thoughts. I'm in my head.
What are you thinking about? What you got
Um,
going on in the upcoming day?
I mean, that might be possibly true, but usually I kind I this is sort of embarrassing, but I get very engrossed in imagined scenarios and anticipating possible scenarios and imagining conversations with people and sort of
Like, do you wake up
like I
mad at
can't
somebody and fantasizing about yelling at them?
uh
I do that.
that probably has happened.
I do that. I wake up mad at people sometimes, and
A lot of it is anticipating or sort of just I don't know, I'm just like trapped in this little inner world.
okay. So, like, does that happen because, well, I know I'm going to be meeting up with Dan later. He very well might just say meow, and then what am I going to say? Or gosh, but he could say meow, and then what am I going to say? Is it like that?
It's a lot of that, yeah.
Okay, that's fun. That sounds like fourth slot NE too. Because obviously, I never do that. I'm lucky if I think a little bit in advance before I go into an important conversation about what I'm going to say. Or what they're going to say. I'm assuming at all times that my extroverted intuition is better than the thing I'm facing in the world, and I'll be able to figure it out on the fly. And that can get me into some serious trouble because that's not always the case. So,
No, I wish I could stop it. It's just pretty much dominates most of my thinking.
well, here's the thing. As an ISTJ, if I'm right, you are an experiential knower first. And as a knower, it means you're set up to receive information. For you, you're set up to receive experiential links or associative pieces of information. So, for example, let's say you drive by a liquor store where once you saw your friend get punched by some guy. Well, you'll probably recall that instance every time you drive by that liquor store. You might find yourself recounting or reliving past experiences that you found traumatic, trying to make sense of them, but seeing them ultimately as reflective of how the world is sick. And you're likely to be very consistent with your physicalities, your regimens, and your the food that you like to eat. For a long stretch of time, Cameron, my ICJ friend, he was really only eating steak and asparagus. It was like he had steak and asparagus, and I forget this is another side dish that he had. And every time I ate with him, which was every time he came over, we'd barbecue, and he'd always bring steak and asparagus. Here's an ISTJ thing: when Cameron comes over here, he brings his own bong because he doesn't want to smoke out of my disgusting bong, and um, and he's just kind of fussy about it. And his bong is clean. It looks like, it consistently looks like a brand new bong. Why? Because he cleans it every day. Like, I mean, look at my bong. And I just cleaned the shit out of it too. I just cleaned it, like, give it an epic spring cleaning.
But aren't ISTJs like not creative?
That's not true at all.
It's
Cameron,
not?
I have a video called Spud Brow Spree. It's one of my favorite videos that I've ever made. And it's a collaborative effort with Cameron. Cameron drew all the pictures in that video. If in fact Cameron's got, in a lot of ways, more collaborative creative energy than I do. He loves coming over here and drawing pictures and making stuff and participating in the creative process. He feels as though if he were more complete, this is how everybody feels with the fourth slot function. That if he were more complete, he'd give that a little bit more attention in his life. I feel the same way about SI. If my life were more complete, I'd pay a little bit more attention to feeding myself regularly, bathing regularly, and keeping track of what I got to do and my bills and shit like that. So, and also I feel like this with my fourth slot SI. I feel as though I'm. What's scary is the world changing when I'm not paying attention. So in other words, like me getting caught up in something, then turning around and everyone's older now. I'm going, where did the last couple of years go, and why didn't I notice all these changes? Fourth slot any is like what you're talking about in the morning. Well, but I don't know how it's gonna go, and what am I gonna say? I'm gonna be forced to improvise, and I fucking hate that.
Okay.
Okay. So I will stop the recording now, and I will ask you, do you want me to share it with you privately, or are you okay with me publishing?
Oh, jeez. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. People are going to love this video, really.